Imagine a small frontier state on the edge of Anatolia, barely noticeable compared to the mighty Byzantine Empire to its west, or the Mongol-influenced powers to its east. Yet from these humble beginnings in the late 13th century, a dynasty would rise to command one of the greatest empires in human history. This was the Ottoman Empire. For over 6 centuries, it expanded across Europe, Asia, and Africa, ruling over diverse peoples and cultures. At its height, it was the superpower of its age, controlling the crossroads of East and West, dominating trade routes, and shaping the destiny of nations. But no empire lasts forever. The Ottomans, who rose so suddenly, eventually collapsed after centuries of decline, ending dramatically in the aftermath of World War I. So, how did it all begin, and how did it all end? Let's explore the rise and fall of the Ottoman Empire, the birth of an empire, 13th–14th century. The story begins in the late 1200s. Anatolia, once part of the Byzantine Empire, was fractured. The Mongol invasions had destabilized the region, and the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum had weakened. Dozens of small Turkish principalities, known as beyliks, filled the vacuum. One of these beyliks was led by a man named Osman, from whom the Ottomans take their name. Around 1299, Osman declared independence from the Seljuks, establishing what would become the Ottoman dynasty. The Ottomans had several advantages. Strategic geography. Their territory sat between a crumbling Byzantium and other rival Turkish states. Warrior ethos. They embraced the Ghazi tradition, framing their expansion as a holy struggle. Flexible leadership. Osman and his successors blended Islamic and Turkic traditions while adopting useful practices from their neighbors. By the mid-14th century, the Ottomans had crossed into Europe, seizing Gallipoli in 1354 after an earthquake devastated the region. This was a turning point. They were no longer just another Anatolian beylik, but a rising imperial power. Expansion and consolidation, 15th century. The empire truly came into its own under Mehmed II, also known as Mehmed the Conqueror. In 1453, Mehmed achieved what countless armies before him had failed to do. He captured Constantinople, the capital of Byzantium. Using massive cannons and innovative siege tactics, the Ottomans breached the city's legendary walls. The fall of Constantinople shocked Europe. For the Ottomans, it was a new beginning. Mehmed made the city, renamed Istanbul, his capital, transforming it into a vibrant hub of trade, culture, and administration. From this point, the empire expanded rapidly. They pushed into the Balkans, subjugating Serbia, Bosnia, and Greece. They extended into Anatolia, eliminating rival Turkish states. They began to eye the Middle East, clashing with Persian and Arab powers. The Ottomans were now both a European and Asian empire, straddling two worlds. The Golden Age, 16th century. The empire reached its zenith under Suleiman the Magnificent, 1520–1566. Suleiman wasn't just a conqueror, though he expanded the empire dramatically, taking Hungary, besieging Vienna, and pushing deep into the Middle East and North Africa. He was also a legislator, codifying laws and earning the title Kanuni, or the lawgiver. Under Suleiman, the Ottomans controlled territory from modern-day Algeria to Iraq, from Yemen to Hungary. Istanbul flourished as a cosmopolitan center of trade, art, and architecture. Ottoman culture blended Islamic, Turkic, Persian, and Byzantine influences. This was the Ottoman Golden Age. Its navy dominated the Mediterranean. Its armies seemed unstoppable. European monarchs feared and sometimes allied with the sultans. The empire was not only a military power, but also an economic and cultural giant. Stagnation and struggles, 17th century. But no golden age lasts forever. By the late 16th and 17th centuries, cracks began to show. The empire's expansion slowed. Attempts to capture Vienna in 1683 ended in disaster. The Janissaries, once elite soldiers, grew corrupt and resistant to change. Economic problems emerged as trade shifted. The discovery of the Americas and sea routes to Asia bypassed Ottoman-controlled land routes, weakening their grip on global commerce. Internal politics became unstable, with palace intrigue and succession struggles weakening the sultans. The Ottomans remained powerful, but they were no longer the unstoppable force of Suleiman's era. The long decline, 18th, 19th century. The 18th and 19th centuries are often described as the sick man of Europe, a term coined by the Russian Tsar Nicholas I. The reasons for decline were many. Military defeats. The Ottomans lost ground to Austria, Russia, and other European powers. Nationalist uprisings. Greeks, Serbs, Bulgarians, and others sought independence. Economic backwardness. Europe industrialized while the Ottoman economy stagnated. Corruption and inefficiency. Reforms like the Tanzimat sought modernization, but progress was slow and uneven. Foreign interference. Britain, France, and Russia saw the empire as both a rival and a pawn, meddling in its affairs. By the mid-19th century, the empire was visibly crumbling. It still controlled large areas, but its grip was weakening. The once feared Ottoman armies could no longer compete with modern European militaries. The final collapse, 20th century. The final blow came in the early 20th century. During World War I, the Ottomans sided with Germany and Austria-Hungary. Initially, they had some success, such as at Gallipoli, but the war proved catastrophic. The empire was invaded on multiple fronts. Arab revolts, supported by the British, undermined Ottoman control in the Middle East. The Armenian population suffered a devastating genocide. By 1918, the Ottomans were defeated. The victorious Allies occupied Istanbul and planned to partition the empire completely. But a Turkish nationalist movement, led by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, rose in resistance. Following a war of independence, the Republic of Turkey was declared in 1923. The Ottoman Empire, after more than 600 years, was no more. Conclusion: the rise and fall of the Ottoman Empire is a story of ambition, conquest, cultural brilliance, and eventual decline. It began with Osman's small beylik in Anatolia and grew into a world empire under Mehmed and Suleiman. For centuries, it stood as a dominant power, bridging Europe and Asia, Islam and Christendom, tradition and innovation. But geography, economics, and the relentless rise of European powers eventually caught up with it. Internal decay, external pressures, and the devastation of World War I sealed its fate. And yet, the Ottoman legacy endures. In the architecture of Istanbul, in the cultural memory of the Balkans and the Middle East, and in the nation of Turkey, which rose from its ashes. The Ottoman Empire did not vanish without a trace. It reshaped the world and remains one of history's greatest civilizations. If you found this exploration insightful, give this video a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Timeless Questions channel for more deep dives into philosophy, history, and human nature.